Ian, welcome to Dubai.
Thank you for having me.
And this is 1 billion followers summit. So I've grabbed you literally from the stage that was talking about creators economy. What brought you to that stage?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I run a company called Ensemble, and this is a company that I started with actress, writer, producer Issa Rae. The interesting thing about Issa is that she started as a YouTuber. And she started as a YouTuber around 2015, making a series on YouTube called Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl. That series got on the radar of HBO in the United States. And that relationship eventually turned into the hit series Insecure, which ran for about 7 seasons and can now actually be seen on Netflix. And there's a lot of other series that she's developed, a lot of other films, TV. She was President of Barbie. I mean, she's had an incredible career, but it all started on YouTube when she was a student at Stanford University.
Well, that's the biggest thing that we're trying all to understand.
And that's kind of the
happen?
dream, right? That's kind of the dream, but that's not necessarily the same path that every creator is going to take. Yeah. And so that is why we set out to build an ensemble, is to create that infrastructure, create that new version of a studio that would let creators spread their wings and grow however they need to grow, not necessarily because that's the way it's always been done, but because there are just so many opportunities to do it in new ways now.
And so one of the things that I wanted to talk to you is because I'm trying to bring in the hottest content trends, let's say, to the B2B space. Yep. The biggest issue with the B2B content has always been the entertainment part. Yeah. You are representing a sports and, as you fairly mentioned, an entertainment industry. Yes. Can I ask you, so what's your point of view about content and entertainment?
So I also used to run an advertising agency, and I had many B2B clients. I think what they always get wrong is thinking that the content, and I don't really love that word, but the content that they publish needs to do all the work. It needs to reach the right audience. It needs to open the sale. It needs to do all the convincing, and then it needs to close the sale, which is why you get a lot of B2B marketing, especially in the tech business, for example, as being white papers.
Yeah.
White papers don't get people's attention, right? Entertainment does. We are all people, if we're buying, choosing an AI platform for our company, or we're responsible for choosing between Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace, we're still going home and probably watching, I would used to say television, but now probably like watching Instagram or TikTok or what have you. So we're all getting entertained. Some of the most interesting creators I know are making content about like Excel spreadsheets, right? And they're making that funny. They're making it enjoyable. And there is no part of B2B that should not be enjoyable. Otherwise, what the heck are you doing with your life? So I do think more B2B marketers need to be thinking along the lines of entertainment. We're developing full-fledged series, episodic series that B2B marketers are now coming in to be a part of and sponsor and integrate their products within, because we're doing the hardest thing, which is capturing and holding people's attention.
And what do you think makes it? So how can you capture people's attention in a space where multiple creators are doing it? Let's say with the virality perspective, and so how do you do that? Is there a formula? Do you even analyze that, or?
So there's 2 elements of it. There's the art and the science. There always is to everything, right?
Okay.
So the art is what you can learn from every creator that's being successful out there. Everything from even obsessing over the data to get to the art, right? That is understanding everything from thumbnails on a video to the frame of a video that you start on, to your color choices. It also means understanding that you're not always catering your content to an audience. You're catering your content to an algorithm, because the algorithm is what is deciding who sees your content, which is a very difficult thing for entertainers or people who are used to being in the entertainment industry, that they understand until you put it in the perspective, well, it's not like you're pitching a show to audiences, you're pitching a show to buyers at the platform. So at NBC or Sony or Sky, you are still pitching a piece of content to a buyer. And in that case, the buyer is the algorithm. In our case, Instagram, TikTok, those algorithms are the buyers. So I think it's understanding what it takes to be seen by audiences through the algorithm. And then there's the science of it all, which is understanding, how to tweak it and make it better, sometimes in real time, but often in short time, to ensure that you're getting better every time. And I think that's art and science are very difficult to understand, especially asking the same person to understand both of them. So I think for B2B marketers, it's important, and they obsess over science. I think it's having a similar obsession over the art.
One of the points that you were raising during the panel today was how do linear TV, or let's say I call it traditional TV, traditional media channels, traditional journalism, and the world of the creators that grew on platforms like YouTube and social media like TikTok and Instagram, how these two worlds collide, how do they add value to each other? Are they rewriting each other's scripts, let's say?
They definitely are. I think you're starting to see more companies that are in the linear space adopting more vertical advertising formats. So ESPN, for example, in the United States, and I'd probably say globally, had introduced a format called Verts, vertical, right?
Okay,
Video, right?
Right.
Disney Plus is now integrating content in that format. I think you're going to see, as these platforms understand that their audiences are just not watching things on a horizontal screen, they're watching it on a vertical screen too, and oftentimes watching what they see on their vertical screens on their horizontal screens. I mean, you just have to look at YouTube metrics to understand that. We recently did some work with Kraft Heinz in the United States, where we saw that over 80% of people that watched the content on YouTube watched it on a connected TV.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely, yeah.
And
I agree
that
with
makes
you.
YouTube TV.
Yes.
Right? And so what is TV? I would argue that TV is actually less about the medium and more about the format. Episodic, right? Do people come back for more? Are people expecting something to happen next? If they are, that's TV. And I think TV is learning about that more from the platforms, and I think the platforms are learning about that more from the TV. The platforms do not want to be media companies, though. They need to be technology companies. And I do think that is different because investors don't want to invest in media. They want to invest in technology.
Can you elaborate a little more about, being less media but more of a technology? Because I think this is something fresh that I can hear, right? And
so technology companies need audiences to come to them regardless of the content on the platform. Media companies rely on the content on the platform to attract audiences. So they need, media companies are constantly developing, developing content to serve the audiences that they have. Whereas the technology companies, for a lot of reasons, including safety, privacy, security, put their hands in the air and they say, nope, we are not responsible for anything that goes on our platform. Anyone can upload content to our platform. We are just pipes. We're pipes and technology. And that makes them more valuable as a company to investors, right? Because there's infinite scale there. There are only so many shows that can be seen on Paramount or on Sky, right? There's just, it's because time is a limitation.
Yeah.
With the social media platforms, there's no such thing as time.
that's right. And do you think that will actually flip the whole narrative behind the new media and the fact that virality often makes content unvetted, sort of, right? And then say maybe that's the answer to how do we return back the value of the meaning, the value of the complexity that I think faded away slightly because of the growth of the the creative space. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think there's like some of the most popular content in the world started off going viral before that was even a word. I mean, if you look at something like South Park, which has been now going for 20 years, that started off as one video that made its way on a VHS tape to all the executives in Hollywood, and then eventually to their families, and then eventually to their friends, and then eventually to college students, then eventually to people getting high in their basements. And that created a phenomenon. And that is why South Park has been on the air for as long as it has been. So, I mean, Issa's a similar story. Issa's content on YouTube went viral amongst, college-age Black women, and it became the defining voice of a generation. I mean, these things are going to happen now because content has a velocity that studios, programmers don't. And it kind of wants to be free and seen by everybody. So that's why people get so frustrated when they see things behind a paywall. And that's why I'm so bullish on brand-supported entertainment, because it removes the need for it to live behind a paywall. Brands are actually subsidizing the content production the distribution and therefore the discovery of it. And that is, I think, a big part of the role that brands are going to play in entertainment, whether that's a B2C brand or a B2B brand. I mean, if you look at shows that are happening, like I think in the United States, but even in the UK, like The Office, which started in the UK,
Yeah, that's
and then came
right.
to the US, right? Like that's a workplace comedy.
That's right.
That is B2B. That is B2B content.
Absolutely.
And people relate to that because they work, right? And so I think you're going to see a lot more like that.
But I think The Office is so very much relevant for the B2B space now. I mean, I wish we could sort of repeat The Office in the B2B space to actually demonstrate.
It's starting to happen. I'm starting to see, 30-second adverts in the US that are reminiscent of the way that The Office is being shot, the kind of the handheld, shaky, pseudo-docu style, format, because people are expecting that there's going to be humor in there. And so
Of
they'll stick
course.
around for the joke.
Of course.
Yeah.
But do you think that requires a lot of investment in terms of a production? Because that was one of the points as well. So the linear TV, all a traditional production is very, very cost heavy.
Yes.
Was this the reason why this whole creator space grew up so much in the YouTube? Because people needed less control and more of a space to express
So
themselves.
the entire entertainment industry is on the precipice of something because of the fact that everyone is now realizing that a show that people used to watch that would cost $250,000 to $500,000 an episode can actually be made for $25,000 to $50,000 an episode.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there's like a cabal or a conspiracy, but people don't want that to happen because there are hundreds and thousands of production companies out there that need $250,000 to $500,000 an episode productions to exist because that's what it costs for them to make. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, and creators are proving this every day, you don't need to do that to be successful. You do not, like the success that your content has is not a result of the money that you spend on it. Sometimes
Not
it's
only.
the inverse.
Yeah, probably not only. I think it's the multiple factors
There's
that
a
come
lot.
together.
Yes, there's a lot of factors. And so, but audiences also want authenticity.
Yeah.
And authenticity sometimes favors underproduction
True.
rather than overproduction. And so, look, it's nice to have a balance. Like, there's, if you're watching, Game of Thrones, you want that to look like it costs $250,000 a minute,
Yeah, that's true.
right? But if you're watching, a micro drama on TikTok, you're perfectly happy with that costing
Absolutely.
about $5 a minute.
No, I know what you mean. So, one last question. So what are your expectations from 1 Billion Followers Summit? Are you enjoying the atmosphere? So what are other sort of stages are you attending today?
Yeah, so I'm just going to let this happen to me today. But I think one of the fascinating things about this is and we always knew this about the creator economy, is it really is truly global. But it's also truly regional, right? And so there are creators who have become popular everywhere. And you have creators who are incredibly popular in some places. And I'm like fascinated by that dynamic. And I look forward to meeting a lot of creators here who are absolutely crushing it in places like Africa and the UK and Sweden and all these other places that I don't get to experience firsthand all the time in the United States. Because what we're seeing is that content that we create in the US is oftentimes inspired by the content being created outside of the US. And like The Office is a great example of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shows that are great examples of that historically. There are shows like Three's Company, for example, that was in the United States in the 1980s that was inspired by UK sitcom. So I want to be inspired in the same way by these creators, and I want to make those creators a part of the success of that content as we either bring it into the United States or export it globally. And that's the next stage for us as a company, I think, is to also look globally and say, how do we do the things that we're doing in the United States? How do we make that happen in Europe, Middle East, everywhere else?
I think that's a great goal, right?
I hope
So
so.
one last thing I wanted to ask you, I remember, so do you think creators have something to learn from the linear TV and traditional media channels?
I think they have more...
To return it back. Yes.
I think they have a lot to learn from auteurs in the entertainment industry. As Issa would say, probably the most important skill to have in the entertainment industry right now is editing.
That's right.
And, creators are doing that every day. And like, that's how she started. And that's, I think, a big part of why she's so successful. It's why she can write. It's why she can direct. It's why she can produce. She has an inherent understanding of how to make the things that audiences want. And again, that's a big strength that creators have. But I also think there's so much for creators to learn about the way that brands engage with media properties and why they spend certain money on the platforms and why they spend certain money on individual creators. And at the end of the day, most creator pitches to brands are about sponsorship, when I would argue that the quickest path to success in the creator economy is not about compelling a brand that your content is the best to sponsor, but rather why your audience is the best to monetize. Because that's where brands can say, oh, I will gladly pay X amount of dollars for my content to be seen Y number of times by Z number of people. As opposed to saying like, oh, I want to sponsor you as a creator and get involved with your content, reporting be damned. And I think like that creates an accountability for creators to understand how their audiences work, how the media industry works. So I think that's something that I would like to see them get smarter on. We're doing our part to help them get that way. But I think globally, that's my greatest advice. If you want more money, understand how the money flows.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure getting that interview. I'm happy I actually took the courage and like, okay, I'm going to ask Ian to join us at the podcasting studio. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for
enjoy
having me.
your 1 billion summit.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.